Tonight, from fires to floods. Wildfires near the Grand Canyon rage thanks to strong winds and extreme heat as firefighters struggle to gain control over the flames, now 0% contained. Those fires torching 85 acres of land, swallowing whole structures and forcing evacuations. Meanwhile, the Northeast is cleaning up from extreme rain and deadly flooding. New York's Central Park recording the second highest hourly rainfall total on record. In the Midwest, severe storms expected throughout the night, and a flood watch is in place from Florida to Louisiana, bracing for a potential tropical system that could hit by the end of the week. Our Ginger Z reports on what you should expect. A longtime American Idol producer and her husband found dead inside their home. Los Angeles police are investigating this as a double homicide, alerted to a suspicious person hopping the fence days before authorities discovered their bodies. We take you inside this breaking story. New inflation numbers from the Labor Department show a 2.7% rise in prices since last year. As President Trump's tariffs begin to show up in the prices of certain goods, the president pushing back today, telling the Federal Reserve to bring down the Fed rate now. The White House poised to dismantle the Department of Education following a win from the Supreme Court. More than $6 billion of nationwide education funds frozen by the administration, impacting summer programs and camps. In response, attorneys general of 25 states are suing to prevent the federal government from cutting funds for schools and educators. Attorney General Jeff Jackson of North Carolina is part of that suit and joins us tonight to discuss how these cuts will impact his community.
I was getting kinda used to being someone you love, but now the day bleeds.
And singer-songwriter Lewis Capaldi is here to talk about his return to the stage, living with Tourette's, and his newest project.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We begin this summer night with a significant flood threat on the heels of that record-breaking flooding here in the Northeast and the major West Coast fire danger and the new evacuation orders tonight. Two major wildfires are burning near the Grand Canyon. The Dragon Bravo fire destroying more than 70 buildings, including a historic lodge. Firefighters are now calling in reinforcements. And in Colorado, the Turner Gulch fire has quadrupled in size. Evacuations are underway, and tonight those dramatic images of that record-breaking flooding. Subway stairs turned into waterfalls after more than 2 inches of rain fell in just an hour. A geyser at the 28th Street stop, too dangerous for the doors to open, passengers then trapped inside. On Manhattan's east side, the FDR Drive turned into a river. The thunderstorm startled this delivery driver in Wayne, New Jersey. So what areas are at risk tonight? What's the latest on those fires? And what role does our changing climate play in all this? Our team is standing by. We begin with Janae Norman.
Tonight, a state of emergency in the Northeast after deadly record-breaking flooding. In New York City, more than 2 inches of rain falling in just an hour, the highest hourly non-tropical rainfall ever. Subway stations turned to waterfalls. Geysers erupting inside the 28th Street subway station.
Attention passengers, I'm going to call this one in. I can't open the doors, it's not safe.
The storm's inundating roads all around New York City and into New Jersey, right in the middle of rush hour.
How you guys doing? Good.
In Scotch Plains, New Jersey, first responders used rescue boats and high water vehicles to bring families to higher ground. In North Plainfield, New Jersey, cars in the water, one of them on fire.
Neighbors were told to evacuate around 5 p.m. Monday. You can see in this house how high the water was coming up. So high. Look here at the house next door. This home exploded overnight. Fortunately, that family made it out safely.
The house still smoldering this morning. Sadly, not far from here, receding water revealing tire tracks that are believed to be from a vehicle swept off the road with 2 women inside. They didn't survive. In Wayne, New Jersey, this delivery driver almost struck by lightning. Roads swamped in Maryland. And outside Richmond, Virginia, some 50 people had to be rescued after waterways in Petersburg rose 10 feet in just a few hours. Authorities declaring a state of emergency there, too.
Just surreal scenes there. Janae Norman joins us now. So, Janae, what are authorities saying about the flooding where you are?
Oh, well, Lindsay, you can see behind me where authorities are still investigating the cause of that house explosion that unfolded right in the middle of this flood emergency. They're still working to find a cause. A major cleanup effort is underway, but at the same time, the ground here is still saturated. And Lindsay, the thing is, this area is under a new flood watch starting tomorrow. So residents are in for more rain.
Round two. All right. Janae Norman, our thanks to you. The destructive wildfire on the Grand Canyon's North Rim has now engulfed more than 8,000 acres. The fire, which is being called the Dragon Bravo fire, is still 0% contained. Officials are now calling in reinforcements, doubling the number of helicopters doing water drops and requesting more firefighters from multiple states. And in Colorado, evacuations are now underway as the Turner Gulch fire there has quadrupled in size. Our Ginger Z is tracking it all for us on this busy Tuesday night, from floods to fires. You have your hands full, Ginger.
We certainly do. Lots to get to. So let's start with that fire danger. There is a critical fire danger, Lindsay, that includes parts of Utah and Nevada. That's because a front is coming through. And you say, oh, good, a front. That means storms. Well, these storms can produce lightning, but often the rain doesn't get to the ground. So we call it dry lightning. They can start new fires, and then you've got those gusty winds. We're going to be watching that through tonight, and it stays warm and dry for that big ridge out west. Now, the flood watch that's still in place yet this evening, the same areas that were hit for the last 24 hours. Petersburg, Virginia, you saw that in Janae's piece. They're in the flood watch, but several flash flood warnings are on the map. People are already seeing 2 to 3 inch per hour rainfall rates, much like the storms we saw last night. Maryland and North Carolina watch that through midnight. And then tomorrow afternoon, just a heads up, because everybody's so super saturated, there's already a flood watch up for storms on Wednesday afternoon in northwestern New Jersey. Now, coming up, I'm going to put together the climate connection, because when you see a stat like this, more than 2 inches of rain in 1 hour, which is a record for Central Park, for New York City, when it's not related to a hurricane. When you see a stat like that, you say, what is the climate connection? I'm going to bring that to you in just a bit.
We are looking forward to the climate connection. Ginger Z, our thanks to you. Turning now to Washington, President Trump is weighing in on the controversy over the Justice Department's failure to release the records from the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. The president saying a short time ago he doesn't understand the fascination, adding that it's all pretty boring stuff. He also added that Attorney General Pam Bondi should release whatever she thinks is credible. Here's our chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl.
Today, amid a growing Republican outcry over the Justice Department's refusal to release the files from their investigation of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, President Trump said his Attorney General Pam Bondi should release, quote, whatever she thinks is credible.
Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release.
For years, vocal Trump supporters, including Kash Patel and podcast host Dan Bongino, fired up the Trump base by stoking shadowy conspiracy theories about Epstein. After he won back the White House, Trump rewarded both of them, naming Patel FBI director and making Bongino his deputy. As Attorney General, Bondi promised to release the Epstein files, but then earlier this month, the Justice Department and the FBI released a memo saying the case was closed and no further information would be made public. That triggered an avalanche of outrage on the right. Even the president's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, said, quote, there needs to be more transparency.
I would like to see that also, but I think the Attorney General, the credibility is very important, and you want credible evidence for something like that.
The president, like many New York celebrities, had some association with Epstein. When Epstein was arrested in 2019, Trump said he had had a falling out with him and hadn't spoken to him in 15 years. Today, Trump told ABC's Catherine Falders that Bondi briefed him on the Justice Department's review of the Epstein files.
What did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen.
Reporters then asked Bondi if she's now ready to release the files.
Our memo speaks for itself, and we'll get back to you on anything else. I haven't seen all of his statements today.
But on Capitol Hill, a growing number of Republicans are sounding off on the Attorney General.
I'm not happy. Nobody's happy about it. Nobody knows what's going on.
The president's effort to put out this fire is not working, at least not yet.
Mr. Epstein was a sex trafficker. I think it's reasonable for the American people to ask who he sexed, trafficked these young women to, if anybody.
Democrats say this is all a problem of Trump's own making.
The whole country is saying, release the files. That's what Donald Trump said. That's what J.D. Vance said. That's what the Attorney General said. That's what the FBI director said. And now suddenly they want to sweep the whole thing under the rug.
A number of politicians not willing to do that. Our thanks to John Carl. To the economy now. President Trump brushed off the latest inflation report, which shows the rate ticking up again. Consumer prices were 2.7% more last month than they were a year ago. ABC's chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce joins us now. Mary, how did the president explain this increase?
Well, Lindsay, with this data, we are now seeing the first glimpse of the impact of President Trump's trade war, what this is doing to the American economy. As you mentioned, inflation accelerating last month. This is impacting the price of goods, meaning everything from electronics to toys, coffee and apparel have now gone up. Experts say prices are likely to continue to rise, especially if President Trump's tariffs go into effect as he has promised early next month. It also means that the Fed chair is less likely to cut rates. And the president has really been pointing a finger at Jerome Powell, continuing to rail against him, demanding that he lower interest rates, though the president, Lindsay, is dismissing these latest figures. He says this was as expected and was quick to note that this was a very slight, in his words, increase, Lindsay.
All right, Mary Bruce from the White House for us. Thanks so much, Mary.
Thank you.
Now to the future of the Department of Education. After the Supreme Court cleared the way for the Trump administration to potentially dismantle the department, Secretary Linda McMahon is expected to move quickly on layoffs and outsourcing operations to other federal agencies. Meanwhile, more than $6 billion of nationwide education funds has been frozen by the Trump administration, immediately impacting summer camps and programs. In response, attorneys general of 25 states sued to prevent the federal government from cutting funds for schools and educators. Attorney General Jeff Jackson of North Carolina is part of that suit. He's kind enough to join us now to discuss it. Thank you so much for joining us. You said that these frozen funds will lead to a huge loss for North Carolina's schools. What kind of loss in particular?
First, it's a financial loss. We're talking about roughly $170 million to North Carolina. We estimate this could result in laying off roughly 1,000 educators, and that's happening just a few weeks before 1.5 million kids go back to school. And then it's the programs themselves. So in North Carolina, these funds heavily go towards after-school programs, particularly for at-risk youth. It's over 10,000 kids that participate in those programs, but also STEM education, mental health services, suicide prevention, adult literacy classes. It's a long list.
And how much notice did you have about these frozen funds?
We had no notice. It wasn't even the day before. It was the night before. We got a 3-sentence email along with the rest of the country that included basically no detail and said these funds would now be frozen until further notice. And since then, the Department of Education has been unwilling to answer any of our questions.
There's real concern in particular about rural schools. What could be the potential for students there?
The most heavily impacted counties in our state are going to be our rural counties. The top 3 are Ashe and Polk and Graham. Those are very rural counties where we estimate that the cut per student will be $300 to $400. That is a huge chunk. North Carolina is still recovering from the Helene hurricane. In just the Helene impacted counties, it'll be roughly an $18 million cut. That is an enormous amount of money for those school districts.
And how could this complicate the teacher shortage that's already happening across much of the country, including right there in your state of North Carolina?
North Carolina has a famous teacher shortage at this point. It's something that some folks in the General Assembly have been trying to remedy, and I give them credit for that. This would be a shock to the system in what is already an extremely fragile condition.
So is there a fix that lies within each individual state, right? Because if the idea here is that the federal government is saying, hey, the education responsibility, the onus really lies on the state, is there any money that you can move to help educate the kids?
We are operating in an emergency fiscal situation right now in North Carolina. Our state superintendent, Mo Green, believes there is a couple of months of stopgap funding that we may have access to. But a lot of these counties and school districts have to assume that they are not going to have money beyond that point, which means they're making hiring or firing decisions right now based on those assumptions.
And so with this lawsuit that the 25 attorneys general is bringing forward, What kind of time are you thinking that you might be able to get a response? Because the school year, just a few months away, is this something that you're thinking that you could get an adequate amount of money by September?
No, you're absolutely right. Time is of the essence. We have a few weeks really to avoid the worst consequences of this, which is why the main request in the lawsuit right now is a preliminary injunction. We're asking the court to treat this as an emergency and say that while we resolve this litigation, which could take many months or longer, we want them to lift the freeze on funding right now so that if the court decides later, as we believe, that this was unlawful and unconstitutional, we will not have had all of this damage done in the interim.
Attorney General Jeff Jackson, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Immigrants who arrive in the U.S. illegally will no longer be eligible for a bond hearing in accordance with a new ICE policy. Previously, undocumented immigrants could request a hearing in front of an immigration judge to seek a release on bond. The change comes as the Trump administration seeks to keep detained immigrants in ICE custody before their deportation hearings, which could take months or even years. The new policy is expected to face legal challenges. On Monday, President Trump announced that he'd sell U.S.-made air defense weapons to NATO to help Ukraine defend itself against Russia's relentless assault. The president also threatened Russia with severe tariffs within 50 days unless it agrees to a peace deal. And today, Trump responded to reports he allegedly asked Ukrainian President Zelensky about firing missiles deeper into Russia. Our chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is in Kyiv again tonight. Ian, what was the president's response?
Yeah, Lindsay, President Trump flatly denying these reports that he asked President Zelensky whether he could strike deeper into Russia and whether having more long-range missiles would enable him to do so. Trump was asked about this by reporters, and what he said was that President Zelensky of Ukraine shouldn't target Moscow. He also said that the US isn't planning to give him long-range missiles that could do the job. Now, ABC News spoke to multiple sources here, one of them saying that they didn't want to confirm or deny the details of that phone conversation that took place a little while back now between President Trump and President Zelensky, but they did say that Ukraine would bring hell down on Russia and that they would continue to attack. But separately, I think the reason we're seeing this change of policy from the White House, this change of position in particular from President Trump, who's lavished praise on Vladimir Putin, who said that he believes his promises, that he's serious about peace. Trump's become increasingly frustrated with Putin's ongoing heavy bombing of Ukraine. Already this evening, Lindsay, we've had multiple Russian strikes, drones and missiles hitting different parts of the country. The reason I'm wearing this flak jacket right now is we just had an air raid siren, drones flying nearby. We've just had the all clear, but as I say, no sign the Kremlin's heeding those warnings, and President Trump may have to think again. Lindsay?
All right, stay safe, Ian. Thank you. President Trump today did respond to reports he allegedly asked Ukrainian President Zelensky about firing missiles deeper into Russia. Joining us now is Russia's former foreign minister under President Boris Yeltsin, Andrei Kozyrev. Mr. Kozyrev, welcome back to the show. Ukraine will now get more Patriot missiles. Will that be enough to bring Putin to the bargaining
First of all, let Ukraine get those weapons. That's the point. All the words, however better than before, mean nothing for Putin. The words will not stop him, and he already, and his foreign minister Lavrov already openly mocking the situation, the United States, and openly continue and insist on bombing Ukraine and going with the war. So he understands only deeds, only practical measures. And these practical measures are, of course, weapons, most potent weapons, not just half measures, like before, for 3 years before. It was only threats and half measures. So let's see what actually happens and what kind of weapons he will see, Putin will see on the front and in Ukrainian arsenal. Otherwise, we can guess whatever we want and welcome whatever we want. but words lost their meaning in this situation.
Do you think that even severe tariffs against Russia, possibly secondary tariffs against their biggest trading partners, China, India, Brazil, would be enough to cause Putin to at least blink?
Again, let's see what kind of exactly of the sanctions. And 50 days is too long a period, and these days actually things and mood in the White House also changes every minute almost. So 50 days, it's a long time to go. And I doubt that the United States will actually impose large tariffs, like 500% tariffs. That means just a closure of any economic relationship with China and India, those great countries and large partners, economic partners of the United States. So it sounds like too much. So let's see what happens. Again, all these projects, all these resolutions, it's very good that the resolution for the sanctions is supported in the Senate by 85 people. That's great. But what happens in the end, that's, to my mind, absolutely unclear, and 50 days is a long time.
Russia's former foreign minister under Boris Yeltsin, Andrei Kozyrev, we thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Back in this country, a dentist is on trial in Colorado accused of killing his wife of 23 years by allegedly poisoning her slowly. Opening arguments are now underway. What prosecutors say he put inside her protein shakes. Here's ABC's chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman.
Tonight, prosecutors laying out their case against the former Colorado dentist accused of murdering his wife with protein shakes laced with cyanide, arsenic, and a chemical commonly found in eye drops.
Intentionally and deliberately over the course of 10 days ended her life.
Prosecutors say that in March of 2023, James Craig's wife of over 20 years, Angela, the mother of his 6 children, began experiencing dizziness, headaches, and vomiting. Investigators say James Craig used his dental clinic's computers to research poisons, logging searches such as how to make poison and is arsenic detectable in autopsy. Angela Craig was hospitalized at least 3 times over 10 days before she died in March of 2023.
But there was a motive. And you ask yourself, is it my problem? Is it other women? Yes.
We exclusively interviewed the so-called other woman, a respected orthodontist named Karen Kane, their relationship playing out in texts and phone calls, though she says it never got physical.
Do you think that James Craig allegedly poisoned his wife to clear the deck so he could be with you?
There's no way I'm motive. There's been no planning a future together.
And in court today, the defense attorney for the dentist tried to paint the picture that James Craig's wife, Angela, may have been suicidal.
She was broken. And in fact, by her own words, she was broken. She was struggling.
Our thanks to Matt Gutman. And a late-breaking update tonight in a shocking double homicide in Los Angeles. An arrest has been made in the deaths of a music producer for American Idol and her husband. They were found Monday shot dead in their upscale home. A spokesperson for the show confirmed the death of music supervisor Robin Kay and her songwriter husband Thomas DeLuca, both 70 years old. The 22-year-old suspect is believed to have been burglarizing the home when the couple returned, shooting them dead in the resulting struggle. Coming up, Good Samaritans on a hiking trail in Los Angeles prevented a major catastrophe, stepping in when an arsonist allegedly tried to light a wildfire. And a huge surge in the use of methamphetamine has America's Drug Enforcement Administration sounding the alarm. Cartels have found a new way to hook young people on drugs by packaging meth in pill form and marketing it to college kids as prescription drugs.
What scares me the most is within the last year, we're seeing a huge focus on pills, or the fake pills that predominantly used to be fentanyl. Now we're seeing methamphetamine pills.
Turning now to an ABC News investigation looking into rising seizures of methamphetamine in the U.S. ABC's Pierre Thomas spoke exclusively with the acting head of the Drug Enforcement Administration, and he warned that the Mexican cartels are trying to boost profits by trying to addict more Americans to incredibly dangerous and sometimes lethal doses of the drug.
In this footage provided by the DEA to ABC News, you can see just how creative the Mexican cartels have become at smuggling drugs. This may look like a produce truck hauling cucumbers, but during the week of July 4th, the DEA discovered that hundreds of boxes packaging the cucumbers have been lined with meth. All part of what the DEA says is a diabolical plan by the cartels to surge U.S. addiction to meth.
So far this year, we've seized approximately 70,000 pounds of meth. Now, put that in context. 2024, that's the entire amount that we seized for DEA, 70,000 pounds. And that was a record year for DEA. At this pace, at a minimum, we're going to double what we seized last year.
Meth disguised as watermelons. Other shipments secretly mixed with celery and onions. And now what Murphy says is a frightening new strategy by the cartels, turning meth into pill form, making it more marketable by taking away the stigma of injecting it or smoking it.
What scares me the most is within the last year, we're seeing a huge focus on pills, or the fake pills that predominantly used to be fentanyl. Now we're seeing methamphetamine pills.
The DEA says meth pills also make it easier for dealers to trick unsuspecting customers into becoming addicted to meth.
It's used for the fake Adderall, the fake MDMA, all of the drugs that are wanted by our college-age kids, and younger, that appeal to them. And they're actually getting meth, and they don't know this. This is targeting a whole different user base, and it's dangerous.
Pierre Thomas joins us now to take us on a deeper dive into his reporting. So, Pierre, why is the DEA seeing this huge increase in meth seizures?
Well, they believe it's all about the money, that the Mexican cartels want to expand their market of meth sales in this country. And they're deeply concerned about the way they're going about doing it. They're seeing almost a double amount, or on pace to have a double amount of meth seized this year compared to last year. And they think it's because the cartels simply want to make a lot more money.
And what's the warning that the DEA wants all Americans to hear?
Well, the main thing that they're most concerned about, the new thing, is that meth is being converted into pills. Now, here's why that's important. Number one, for addicts or people that want to use drugs, the stigma of having to inject yourself or snort it or smoke it, you don't have when you can simply pop a pill. So they think it's appealing to that kind of population. The other thing they're concerned about is that people who are simply thinking they're going to go to the corner and buy some off the record, off street pills of Adderall or ecstasy, they're now getting meth. Right. Unsuspectingly, and suddenly they would be hooked to this very dangerous drug.
And young people among those as well. Overdose deaths were actually down last year. What does the DEA make of this trend?
Well, I think the thing that they're seeing is that even though those deaths are down, just with psychostimulants alone, which include meth deaths, there were 29,000 people that died. And the acting administrator yesterday said that while they're making progress, you can't declare a victory when you have that many people willing to consume drugs and who are dying because of it.
Pierre Thomas, such informed reporting. Really appreciate your time.
Pleasure.
Coming up, rain, floods, and heat extreme weather events are getting more frequent. So what does our warming climate have to do with it all? We break it down by the numbers. And later, how a Native American tribe is fighting the Trump administration over the new immigration detention center on their land. Welcome back, everyone. As we've been reporting, that rainfall in New York City was one for the record books, quite literally. Let's take a look at that and the climate connection by the numbers. The 2.07 inches of rain is the highest non-tropical hourly rainfall on record. That number represents a 1 in 20-year flood for Central Park, meaning there's a 5% chance that this could happen any given year. July, along with August, tends to be a month most prone to flash flooding across much of the central and eastern U.S. Zooming out beyond New York City, so far in 2025, the National Weather Service has issued more flash flood warnings than any year going back to 1986. And if you break it down by region, extreme precipitation events have increased by about 60% in recent decades in the Northeast. And as our planet continues to warm, for every 1 degree Fahrenheit of warming, the air can hold an extra 4% of moisture. The U.S. has already warmed 2.6 degrees Fahrenheit since 1970, meaning our atmosphere can already hold about 10% more moisture. For more now, our chief climate correspondent and chief meteorologist Ginger Zee is back with us. Ginger, we broke down some of the numbers there, but help us understand the numbers a bit more. So in essence, as the planet continues to warm, it's not just drying out the planet, making droughts more frequent, last longer, and be more intense, but it also is creating an environment for when it does rain, it can rain harder.
Yes, so you brought up that 1 degree Fahrenheit, you get 4% more ability to hold moisture in the atmosphere, right? So we know that one event, like what happened yesterday at Central Park, that can't all be caused by human-induced climate change. However, what we will see in weeks to come when it gets studied is that there was a percentage of it that can be related back. So you can think about our atmosphere like a big sponge, and the sponge used to be this big. Then we added about 4% or 10% in the last couple of decades, and now it can hold that much more moisture. On the drying part of it, remember, it's not just how much it can squeeze out over one area, but it's also how much it can heat it up and evaporate it so it can suck up all that moisture again. So that we call that hydroclimate whiplash sometimes, where you go from extreme drought to these extreme events, and we're going to see more of that, the experts say, as the climate warms as well.
Yeah, it does seem like we are seeing some whiplash there. And Ginger, is the ability of meteorologists to predict these weather events impacted by any of the DOGE cuts or job cuts to the National Weather Service and NOAA?
At this moment, we haven't seen anything except observation, and observation is key. You ask any meteorologist, we need more data to input into our computer modeling to make our forecast better. But what we have seen, because of DOGE cuts, are already some reduction in staffing that has stopped things like weather balloons in some places. That little piece is a piece of the puzzle that we need for the best puzzle at the end, right, for your forecast to be the most accurate. So we hope to see less of that and more staffing.
All right, really helpful information there. Ginger Zee, our thanks to you. Coming up, the major first-time honor at 83 years young for Harrison Ford. And our Stephanie Ramos talks with the artist behind the UK's most streamed song of all time. And it's probably one you've heard yourself. The historic first in this year's Emmy nominations, Good Samaritans on a Los Angeles hiking trail help catch an alleged arsonist, and soccer fans rejoice. The U.S. is hosting the World Cup, and now we know how to score tickets. These stories and more in tonight's Rundown. One special dolphin named Lucky is living up to its name and swimming free after getting stranded in a shallow tidal lagoon in South Carolina. Lucky, a female dolphin who's nearly 8 feet long, was discovered stranded on July 12th after heavy storms battered the area. Rescue crews were called in to guide Lucky out of the tidal pool. They eventually wrangled Lucky in a large tarp before releasing her into deeper waters nearby. Legendary actor Harrison Ford landed his first Emmy nomination for his role in the Apple TV series Shrinking. Other first-time nominees include Kristen Bell for the Netflix comedy series Nobody Wants This, and Colin Farrell for his role in HBO's The Penguin. Kathy Bates became the oldest performer ever nominated for Best Lead Actress in the CBS reboot of Matlock. A man accused of setting a fire along the popular Runyon Canyon hiking trail in Los Angeles was confronted by fellow hikers. Firefighters were dispatched to the area shortly before noon on Sunday in response to a brush fire. The blaze reportedly started with just one palm tree but spread to approximately a quarter acre. In a video posted on social media, the suspect appears to admit that he lit the fire before other hikers catch on and surround the man while they wait for firefighters. Fortunately, firefighters were able to quickly extinguish the blaze. The Miccosukee tribe filed a suit as an intervening plaintiff in the federal lawsuit brought on by the environmental groups against the Trump administration's new detention facility in the Florida Everglades dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. The tribe says the administration failed to conduct an environmental review to the protected habitat and that they are committed to ensuring their traditional lands are not used as a detention facility. Applications for tickets to the 2026 World Cup will open on September 10th. The soccer world's governing body, FIFA, said that due to anticipated high demand, tickets would be released in phases. The next edition of the tournament will be co-hosted by Canada, Mexico, and the United States and kicks off in Mexico City in early June next year. A new pet in San Francisco has an unexpected tie to a family's late Chihuahua named Rufus. Just 4 days after Rufus's death, the family was looking to get another dog when they saw what looked like a familiar face on an adoption site. The dog they found looked just like Rufus. They rushed to the shelter and adopted the dog. Testing later revealed that their new dog, Ziggy, is actually the late Rufus's biological father. The family was shocked at the results and heartened that Rufus's memory literally lives on. Famed author James Patterson has published a new book out now on the Idaho college murders case, The Idaho 4, An American Tragedy. It details what those closest to the victims believe may have been the motive behind their vicious killings ahead of next week's sentencing of Brian Kohberger. Arkana Whitworth has more.
Nearly 2 weeks after the shocking plea deal that avoided sending Brian Kohberger to trial, stunning new details from those closest to Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin about what they believe was the motive behind Kohberger's brutal murders of the 4 University of Idaho students.
For people who have followed this story, we wanted to give them closure.
Best-selling author James Patterson and investigative reporter Vicki Ward teaming up for the new book, The Idaho 4, An American Tragedy, conducting over 300 interviews with people with ties to the case, including family and friends who believe Maddie was the target.
There was consensus that it was Maddie that Kohberger was going for, and the victims' families, I think, would all agree with that. You know, everything points to that.
Moscow police allege the culprit's cell phone records show his phone appears to have been close to the King Road house on at least 12 occasions between August and the night of the murders in November, almost always late at night. The book also describing what it calls a recurring nightmare of a close friend, Emily Allant, after the murders, saying she imagined that the now convicted murderer went to the restaurant where Maddie worked, expressed a romantic interest in her, and was rejected. He then retaliated.
You wrote about this recurring dream that Emily Allant was having, that in her dream, Brian Kohberger met Maddie at the Mad Greek, where we know that she worked with Xana. Tell me a little bit about how she explained that dream to you and how you put it into writing.
When they are told that the guy who murdered their friends is this guy, Brian Kohberger, they don't recognize his photo.
Right, a total stranger.
They can't put it together. That's when Emily said the only explanation that she and Hunter could come up with is the story that, you know, we tell as the story of her dream, that Brian Kohberger targeted Maddie, and that, you know, she doesn't know the exact details, but that's her best guess.
Lead prosecutor Bill Thompson says Maddie was the first person the culprit killed, the knife sheath with his DNA found under her body.
Kohberger, the criminologist, had such training for this, and he almost committed the perfect crime. Had he not left the knife sheath, he probably wouldn't have got caught.
For nearly 7 weeks, he hid in plain sight one of the only sources of real information, a surviving roommate who told friends what she saw.
It's really through Emily that we learned what sort of Dylan had gone through. And it sounded so surreal to them all, because she said he had a black mask and he looked like he was carrying a black vacuum. And they're sitting there thinking, who could this be? And, you know, what on earth has happened?
Just weeks ago, Kohberger taking a plea deal, admitting he killed the 4 friends. Patterson and Ward now hoping to give readers a true sense of who they were and all of their promise.
You will meet Ethan and Kaylee and Maddie and Xana. You will meet them and you will feel them as human beings.
I spoke to Stacey Chapin, Ethan's mom, and she did say, which was wonderful to hear, that she's so glad that this book exists, because it means that they're not forgotten. It is a tribute to them and their lives.
All right, thanks to Kana for that. He's known for his Certified Diamond song and the UK's most streamlined song of all time, With Someone You Loved. He has more than 30 billion combined global streams. He is a two-time Brit Award winner, two-time Grammy-nominated and multi-platinum global superstar. And now Lewis Capaldi is stepping back into the spotlight after taking 2 years away from touring and performing his new single, Survive. Our Stephanie Ramos sat down with Lewis Capaldi to hear about his return.
Your music is just phenomenal. It is so nice to hear some of your new music, like Survive. Your new single, Survive, is a brave anthem that addresses your condition with Tourette's.
Yes, I'm a very brave boy.
You are.
Brave boy. Yeah.
You're a brave boy, and this is
Such
a brave anthem.
Yeah.
So how has the song helped you return to music after a 2-year break?
Well, it's just been a nice sort of way to come back. I wanted to have a song come out that wasn't, a lot of my music is a bit woe is me and a bit boo-hoo and sad and all this, and I wanted this song to be like less pathetic, let's put it that way. So I wanted to have something that was a bit more triumphant than my previous offerings. So this one's all about like getting through stuff and surviving.
How long till it feels like
You have some pretty powerful lyrics in your song Survive. I'm going to read some of them. You write, I swear to God I'll survive if it kills me too. I'm gonna get up and try if it's the last thing I'll do. So tell us about those lyrics.
Yeah. It's just about sort of persevering through something. I think I am quite, I can slip into woe is me quite easily. I really had to just have a sort of mindset switch where I was like, I can actually, it's on me to get up and do this and fix this and change things. So yeah, that was that lyric.
There was a moment where you were struggling emotionally to get through a song on stage. But your fans, they helped you cross that finish line.
Yes.
Walk us through that. What was that moment like for you?
Oh, it was horrible. I hated it. It was like the worst day of my life. Everyone always says to me like, oh, that must have been so beautiful and lovely. And I was like, no, I was like, get me off stage at once. This is a horrific experience. So yeah, that's like one of the worst days of my life. So thanks for bringing it up.
I know.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
But your fans were right there for you. And how did that feel to hear them singing the lyrics?
It was lovely. At the time, it was obviously a bit more like, oh, this is intense. But watching it back now, it's like a lovely, sort of heartwarming thing.
And you were there 2 weeks ago, performing Survive.
I swear to God I'll survive.
How was it to be back on that same stage and performing this brave anthem?
Yeah, it was good. It felt amazing. Yeah, it felt really special and just like a whole sort of full circle moment. I always wanted to, when I sort of got to the point where I was like, oh, I can come back and perform again, I knew I wanted to do it at Glastonbury to sort of, as almost like a mental little thing for myself that I could overcome the thing that I wanted to finish what I couldn't finish the first time around.
Thank you.
So let's go back a little bit. So your star is rising. This was a few years ago, 2019, right? Your star is quickly rising. You're starting to feel these tics on stage. What went through your mind? What was your process? What were you thinking was going on?
I thought I was dying. I often go to that, jump to that conclusion if anything is going wrong in my body. I thought there was something wrong with me. I had some degenerative disease, and I sort of, was going to doctors trying to work out what it was, and then like about months and months and months, like 6 to 9 months or something, of going to doctors and trying to get an answer and being prescribed antidepressants and all this stuff. I went to this neurologist who told me that I had Tourette's, or that they thought that I had Tourette's. And then all the sort of stuff that had happened in growing up, a lot of stuff started to make sense. Like all these little things I used to do when I was younger, like blink really hard, or like cough, or make noises, or like clench my fists or whatever. It was like a real, like it was nice to get some clarity and sort of put me at ease a bit.
Divinely Uninspired to a Hellish Extent was the biggest selling UK album of 2019 and 2020 and won the Brit Award for Best New Artist, and you've had 2 Grammy nominations. So what is something that you're looking forward to with this next album?
Losing my 3rd Grammy is a big goal of mine. Looking forward to that in a big way.
But you'll be nominated, or I mean, the nomination is big too.
I don't know. Yeah, it's huge.
We don't know about the nomination, of course, but
it's not as good as winning. Let's be honest, though. Let's be just flat out here. Everyone who wins always goes, "Oh, it's just a pleasure to be nominated." Yeah, because you won. It's a nice thing to win them as well. But I'm joking. I don't really know. That's what I'm saying. This time around, I'm less. Maybe it's not a good thing to not be goal oriented, but this time around, the accomplishment is getting back and playing and doing stuff and being out here, doing stuff like this again, and having, just having the sort of buzz of making music again and releasing it and playing shows and meeting people and getting stuff out there. I feel like the last 2 years I've really realised how much I missed performing and doing music. This is all I've ever done.
And you're doing it from a more stable place. You're mentally healthy. You're stronger. And you're teaming up with BetterHelp. Is that right? So tell us about that.
Yeah, so BetterHelp and I are offering 734,000 free hours of therapy to people out there, because it's like 1,000 hours for every single day that I took a break. And it's just a case of therapy was like a really big thing for me over the last 2 years. It's really helped me get back to where I want to be and get back to like a steady place and feeling, sort of calm and, better up top. Hopefully it helps a lot of people.
What a great conversation. Our thanks to Stephanie for that. That is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.